All right, so today we are diving deep into one of life's biggest mysteries, and we're using John Burke's incredible book, Imagine the God of Heaven, as our guide. Now, he didn't just collect stories. He looked at over 1,000 near-death accounts like data. And what he uncovered points to some really consistent, maybe even verifiable evidence for an afterlife. So let's get into it.
You know, it's the question, isn't it? The one we all think about. When our time is up, is that it? Just lights out? Or is there something else waiting for us? For centuries, that was a question for philosophers and theologians. But what if that's changing? What if we're now dealing with actual evidence? What if people are coming back with notes?
And here you have it, a direct quote from someone who went through what's called a near-death experience, or an NDE. We're talking about that moment when someone is clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, and then they're brought back. And the thing they keep saying, thousands of them, is this profound shock of realizing, wait, I'm still me. It's a huge claim, right? So let's really dig into the evidence.
Okay, first things first, we need to get on the same page about the phenomenon that's at the very heart of all this, the near-death experience. Because for the folks who've had one, they're adamant. This isn't a dream, it's not a hallucination. They say it's the most real thing that has ever happened to them.
So what is an NDE really? Well, it's what people report when they've been on the brink of death, or sometimes even declared clinically dead. And the patterns, they're just incredible. You've got this feeling of floating outside your own body, moving through a tunnel, and then this encounter with a being made of pure, loving light. But the kicker, the part that everyone comes back saying, is that that experience felt more real than this life right here. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just happening in one country or to people with one set of beliefs. We're talking millions of people all over the world. A Hindu in India, an atheist in America, a tribesman in Africa, they're all reporting the exact same core experience. Yeah, the way they explain it might be colored by their culture, but the journey itself, that light, that feeling of overwhelming love, the life review, it's unbelievably consistent. Okay, but let's pump the brakes for a second. We have to be fair here and look at the other side. What does science have to say? What's the skeptical, mainstream explanation for these wild stories? So the leading scientific argument is pretty straightforward. It's all in the brain. Basically, as the brain is dying, it gets starved of oxygen, right? And that, combined with a flood of chemicals, could totally cause some intense hallucinations. It's a purely physical, biological event. And honestly, it's a pretty good theory, except for all the things it just can't explain. And that's where we get to the heart of Burke's work. He lays out all this evidence that really challenges that dying brain theory. Let's walk through some of the key points that suggest, well, that something much bigger is going on here. I mean, look at this list. Each one of these is a major headache for that purely physical explanation. How are people observing their own resuscitation, reporting details they couldn't possibly know if their brain is offline? How is their thinking becoming clearer and more lucid while they're clinically dead? It doesn't add up. But out of all of these incredible points, there's one that just stops you in your tracks. The blind can see.
Yeah, you heard that right. Just let that one sit for a second. We're not just talking about people who lost their sight. Burke's research and a lot of other studies include cases of people who were blind from birth. They have never seen a thing in their lives. They have no mental framework for what sight even is. And yet during their NDE, they describe seeing everything.
Just think about the implications of that. How is it possible for someone with no working eyes, no developed visual cortex in their brain, to describe the color of a doctor's tie or a piece of equipment on a cart across the room? It points to something absolutely profound, that consciousness, the real you, might not be stuck inside your brain. It can exist apart from our physical senses. So, okay, we've talked about the data and the evidence, but let's shift gears to the experience itself. Because at the core of almost every single one of these accounts, no matter where it comes from, is this encounter with a being made of pure light.
And this just lays it out perfectly. You've got Santosh, a Hindu from India, Mario from Africa, Marsha from America. I mean, you couldn't get more different backgrounds, right? But listen to how they describe it. It's almost word for word the same. This overwhelming, divine light that just radiates love and safety and peace. They're not seeing a specific religious figure from their culture. They're all meeting the same universal, loving presence. And when you ask them to describe it, they all kind of stumble.
They say words just don't do it justice. They say think of the most powerful, pure love you've ever felt on earth, and it's not even in the same ballpark. It's not just love. It's this feeling of coming home, of being completely 100% known and loved for exactly who you are. So if we take all these thousands of stories and we kind of layer them on top of each other, what picture starts to emerge? What do they tell us about the nature of this being of light, this being that so many people just call God?
I love this quote. It's from a psychiatrist who had his own NDE, and it just perfectly captures the sheer power of what people are describing. The love they feel isn't just a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling. They describe it as a force of nature, a power so incredible that something like death just doesn't stand a chance against it. Now, based on all these accounts, Burke points out something really crucial about this love. First, it's described as totally pure, not like our human love, which, let's be honest, can be pretty messy and conditional sometimes. But here's the key. For a real relationship to exist with this being, it can't be forced. Just think about it, right? Real, genuine love has to be a choice. It requires you to have the freedom to say yes or to say no.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. If we entertain the idea that these thousands of accounts are pointing to something real, a reality where a personal, profoundly loving God exists, then the conversation changes. It's not just, is there an afterlife anymore? The real question becomes, what would you and I do differently starting today if we lived as though this were true?